listening to the Mark Petroni radio program. Heard exclusively on News Talk, Saga 960.
Back with more on News Talk, Saga 960, the Mark Petroni Show. Appreciate you tuning in, my friends. Always great having Miles Kristen on the show, coming to us from Madison, Wisconsin. And Miles has noticed something where he is, and that is that lefties, liberals, have come to the realization, the stark, painful realization that Joe Biden really is too cognitively gone to continue in his job as president. Welcome, Miles.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Why did you know? What was it that tipped the balance for you?
Oh, I mean, I've known that he's been in cognitive decline since the 2020 election. I mean, even before COVID, in the 2019 primary, I was saying that he would have been a terrible choice as far as their candidate goes. And most Democrats were in complete denial of this. What's insane is how little attention the Democrats voters are paying towards this primary. You know, there's a candidate, a congressman from Minnesota named Dean Phillips who's running, and my governor, Tony Evers, actually tried to keep Mr. Phillips off the ballot.
Why?
He sees that as some sort of threat to Joe Biden. I mean, that's the biggest thing about this is we all know that they're going to replace Joe Biden now. It's pretty obvious that the Democrats are completely admitting that what's going on and that he's in cognitive decline and that he needs to be replaced with somebody else. And then so you have the DNC figuring out who they're going to replace him with. You know, Kamala just came out in this interview and said she's ready to serve. And yet there's this...
Yeah, serve what? Hors d'oeuvres? Okay, so let me ask you, who should replace Joe Biden, in your view? Who will end up doing it?
That's a great question. There's a lot of talk that it will either be Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, of course Kamala. There's also the chance of maybe Pete Buttigieg or someone like that. But the fact is that Dean Phillips, now that Marianne Williamson has dropped out of the Democratic primary, Dean Phillips is the only person who's actually going through the legitimate route of doing a primary. And yet they are basically, he's getting no media coverage. They like I said, they tried to keep him off the ballot in some states. When he actually had more votes in the New Hampshire primary before the full route count was counted, the Associated Press gave Biden the win in New Hampshire when Biden actually had less votes than Dean Phillips at the time. So it's very strange to me. I mean, Dean Phillips, from all I can see about him, you know, he's one of the wealthiest members of Congress. His father died in the Vietnam War. He had a lot to do with the PPE program. I mean, he's a serious congressman, right? I think it's in his third term, and he's from Minnesota, which is, you know, not a controversial place. And, you know, but yet they're going to maybe replace Biden with another California politician. I mean, that's not a very smart idea.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, it's not like they're going to really have to fight to hold on to the state.
And they're having... I mean,
they should go for a battleground state, you know.
And the Democrats are having their convention in Chicago this year, which is like, great. Let's just think of the 1968 Democratic Convention and how that looked. You know, is that really the imagery do you want to send to the country? And meanwhile, the Republicans are having their convention also nearby here in Milwaukee, which is like, was Berkeley and Madison unavailable? I mean, you couldn't find a town you're more hated in? Like, yeah. That's going to see a bunch of Antifa lunatics pop out of the woodwork, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, what if Joe doesn't want to leave and digs in his heels like he seems to be, because he's very stubborn. He doesn't want to be pushed out, even if he is a puppet for the forces really running the country. It seems at this point that he doesn't want to go. What then? I
have to wonder if Hunter realizes the longer his father is president, number one, the money train can keep going, but number two, that, as long as his father is president, if he is indicted, his father will be able to pardon him. So seems to be a little bit of this mafioso criminal element to why he's probably staying in as long as possible. But you also have to think about it. There's probably 100 different think tanks with 100 different agendas. And so that really makes anything possible as far as, which candidate will or will not replace Joe. And, the biggest thing I'm noticing is it seems like the strategy for who will be the Democratic candidate is not going to be in any way decided by primaries or voters. They're going to pick the candidate, in closed doors, which is something that is going to really upset the voters. And also, this whole idea, which a lot of people are talking about, which is that they're going to replace him with Michelle Obama. It's like, oh, her husband was president, so she should be president. That didn't work out so well in 2016. And that was with a candidate who had, and I would say, an unsuccessful Senate seat and an unsuccessful Secretary of State seat. But, Hillary was where she was because her husband was president. Everybody knows that. And then now there's talk about putting Michelle up as the candidate. And it's like Michelle's never even served any office except for, she really real role she had outside of being the first lady was when she was part of the Chicago International Relations.
Yeah, she worked for a hospital out there. I think she got paid like $400,000 for not even bothering to go to work.
She also basically worked for the Chicago branch of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate it. It's going to be an interesting few months heading into the election in November. And
well, I would say that, while most people think Nikki Haley has no chance, I think she'll hold on with the possibility that what if Trump is guilty or not? I mean, if he's found guilty, if he is convicted of something, and or if the Republican National Convention has their convention and decides they're not going to run Trump for some reason, I mean, there is the possibility it could be Nikki Haley.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on the show.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on saga960am.ca.